that was just such a phenomenal experience. I mean, I still remember that moment specifically, thinking, "Gosh, I need to do more of this." So how I use that kind of like my at least my understanding of vocal technique and my experience in it. I use now in my training to also become an opera coach, répétiteur.
Good afternoon, Ian.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you here on Zoom.
Likewise.
Are you in Cape Town at the moment?
Yes, I am indeed.
So did you grow up there?
No, I am from the Western Cape originally. I was actually born in Mossel Bay, but for the most part, I grew up in the Free State actually. I only came down to Cape Town, I believe in 2015, which is when I came to study here at UCT.
Oh, I see. But you say you. So what? In what town did you grow up then? If you say in the Free State.
Yes. Oh gosh, I was kind of like all over. It was somewhere. It was between essentially Bloemfontein, the Wetsdorp, which is about 80 kilometers outside of Bloemfontein, and then for a small time, a brief period in Zastron, which I don't know if you've ever heard of the place.
Oh, what is the place called?
Zastron, or yeah.
Oh no, I haven't.
It's deep in the southern Free State, somewhere between close to the Eastern Cape border actually.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But yeah, for the most part, it was Bloemfontein.
Okay, but and you're a pianist, so this is where your time in music started then.
Very much so. Very much so.
So tell me, how old were you when you started playing the piano?
I was actually, I think, 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the love, or what was the inspiration to play the piano? Because I mean, you when you say you lived in the Free State, it's apart from Bloemfontein, but the other places were small towns.
Indeed, yes. So I think probably the love for music certainly came from my parents and my grandparents. While we didn't have a ton of classical music CDs around the house, they always had a certain level of respect for it. We'd always listen to classical music on Sundays. Primarily, actually, I would always when I would go to pick, because I get to pick from the CDs of the classical music what we get to listen to. I always kind of picked the few CDs that we did have. Because I think I gathered my family liked that the most, or they were very impressed when
Really?
when I picked that. Yes. And I suppose I kind of carried that love on. I was fortunate to have some very good piano teachers as I was growing up. Specifically, the one I remember actually in the Wetsdorp, not even in Bloemfontein, who taught me initially how to improvise. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes, which is not something that generally that classical musicians get taught at all.
Yeah.
So I was doing kind of two different exam boards, with the one I think was either ABRSM or UNISA, and the other one was, gosh, if I remember now, OMSA. It's essentially light music, some church music, and then some classical music, kind of like all mixed up. But yeah, that certainly inspired me to kind of like continue improvising, and I'm fortunate enough that I'm now in an occupation where that's essential.
Really? Yeah, because
Yes.
I saw you play for the Cape Town City Ballet.
I do indeed. Yeah.
Oh, so classes with you behind the piano must be fun.
Well, I mean, I certainly try. No, I started with them actually in my very first year of when I was studying my degree. I think the pianist at the time, he wasn't at Cape Town City Ballet. It was actually at the UCT School of Dance. Okay. Dani Fari. Now, he invited all of the first year pianists, all of the new pianists of my year to come in and I think either watch a class or just to meet up with him, kind of tell them about what playing piano foot class is and what that entails and what that might look like. I couldn't actually make it to the first meeting, funnily enough, because I think I had a French class on upper campus or whatever. There was a clash, and I was terribly sad because it sounded fascinating. And but apparently he said, "Oh no, the next time we can have all of the pianists can have a meeting was the same time next week." So that same time came, and it was actually just me and one other pianist who came back actually and wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, this is done. And then about 3 weeks later, it was just me. Because it can be quite daunting when you're sitting there in the corner of the class. You're the only musician, technically. I mean, by the very nature of things, and you kind of just have to take from the prompts that in how the teacher speaks, how they set the exercise. And at that point, you don't know any of the French that they're speaking. You don't know any of the steps. You don't know any of the names. And then they look at you and say, "Ready," and you just have to either know a piece or you better make one up.
I can just, but yeah, this is actually where this improvisation of yours came handy. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I was very fortunate because I was always wondering, oh, gosh, should I have gone into jazz? At least like early on, because I thought, I mean, I really love improvisation, but I don't get to use it at all. Certainly not in the Western classical stream, which I was specializing in at the time.
Yeah.
So it's a very happy coincidence that it came so handy and that I now get to use it pretty much every single day of my life, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Amazing. Two of my children are ballet dancers, and I understand what the pianist means in a ballet class. So, yeah, that's why I say that the dancers must have a lot of enjoyment and fun with you there.
Yeah,
but
no,
now,
it's yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, but and so you have now. So you had this wonderful teachers and so on. So, but you went to a mainstream school, so you didn't go to a music school or anything.
No, I think the first kind of music academy that I had access to was only when I was 15 or 16, when I went to because it was probably my fifth school at the time. As I said, I traveled a lot, around a lot. That was in Bloemfontein. They had a music academy. It's kind of like the music department of the school. And essentially there you could take subject music, obviously, which was my reason rather for going to that school. So there, fortunately, we had some more access to, I mean, firstly, good teachers, but more ensembles, big choirs, things like that.
Yeah, and that's also important for you to have that and to have that connection with other musicians as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's where a big passion, at least that's certainly influenced my passion for voice as well, and singing.
Really?
Yes. No, absolutely. We had a fantastic choir master, Corneille van Pletsen, Dr. Corneille van Pletsen, who kind of headed the choir and also, I believe, the university choir there as well in Bloemfontein now. And that I see that as a very formative part of like my early kind of music education.
Yeah. So you mean you sang in the choir as well?
Yes.
And it's so amazing that I hear so many musicians and artists say that they have this connection with the choir, and also in South Africa specifically, because I know in South Africa there are not many opportunities, and there are also not many music academies like in Europe and in America, and but mostly people seem to start at the choir, at the either the school choir or the university choirs.
No, that's certainly true across the board. And that is something that is actually true regardless of whether the school, whether it's a more high income school or low income. In general, where there's a school, you're quite likely to find a choir, which I think is kind of a common denominator for most schools in South Africa.
But now with the singing, so are you also now trained as a singer, or how do you use the voice then with the piano?
Yeah. So no, I didn't continue my vocal training at all. I initially went to university primarily just specialize in solo piano, and that I did for about 5 years. But throughout that time, I started being brought into accompany some vocal lessons, help out here and there with master classes, and it was because of the exposure to some of the voices that I heard here, which are just phenomenal, just phenomenal. I remember specifically the one singer. I think she was singing an aria from Verdi's La Forza del Destino, Pace, Pace, and gosh, it's just I played the introduction, play, stop, and she sings, and it's like a foghorn.
Really?
My goodness, I was blown away by the voice. So I mean, that was maybe in my fourth year or honors year. Um, that was just such a phenomenal experience. I mean, I still remember that moment specifically, thinking, "Gosh, I need to do more of this." So how I use that kind of like the my at least my understanding of vocal technique and my experience in it. I use now in my training to also become an opera coach, répétiteur.
Oh,
As
okay.
it were. Yes. I'm currently being trained on kind of a part-time basis by the head of Opera UCT, Jeremy Silver. He's training me and a few other pianists in essentially opera coaching, essentially. Yeah.
But that's amazing. And yes, I know. I mean, I've spoken to a few South African opera singers as well. I've spoken to Richard Koch, who you might know as a conductor also in South Africa. And he also said about the talent, the great talent there is in South Africa. And it's just the opportunities are not always there.
No, certainly. I have been very fortunate, certainly in my career so far, to considering my professional career officially started in 2020, which was a very tumultuous time.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, apart from the few ballet classes that I could do while I was studying, I've been incredibly fortunate for the most part not to have to look for work. Certainly, in the fields that I happen to have landed, just because I seem to like it the most of everything, it's it's actually been quite wonderful being approached by, for instance, Epsom Opera or Opera UCT or Cape Town City Ballet, purely just because I love collaborating with other artists so much. I suppose that is one thing. Not every pianist, or very few pianists, go to university thinking, "Okay, I want to be an accompanist."
Oh yeah.
Everyone has all the other dreams. Oh, no, I want to be an ensemble player. I want to be this or that, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I think I kind of fell into it because I just love that type of collaboration. That makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I've spoken a while ago to a pianist who talked about this collaboration between the pianist and the singer, and that magic that this connection that happens between them. So I do understand what you mean about that. So now, so this is now the thing that you do at the moment. So you're still studying and still working on that?
No, so actually, I concluded at least my undergraduate studies,
Oh,
and my honors basically at the very start, January of 2020. And all of the training that I get now, it's very much just on a part-time basis, ad hoc,
oh, I see. Okay.
here and there. No, I'm essentially just a freelance, freelance collaborative pianist, but then also I teach as well. So that's kind of a whole bouquet of what I what I
I
fill
know
my
what you
schedule with.
do. Yeah.
Yes.
But now in South Africa, do you think there is enough done in the schools, for example? So if you think back of your time and you started with the piano, I mean, look where you are now, and you've
Mm.
um, created this career for yourself. But do you think in schools there are this optimism that you think that, that would a teacher have said to you, yes, go for it. You're a great pianist. You can make a career of it.
Hmm. I think that's actually an interesting question. I think there is a certain level of pessimism that exists, certainly for teachers or musicians or artists rather, that aren't living close to big city centers or close to, the where most of the opportunities, at least in this country, lie. Um, and I recall, I think it was actually my choir master who said, I mean, look, this is a man who got his PhD in choral conducting and everything, passions about music, absolutely loves it. And he said, if you don't absolutely have to do music, what do you say? If you can't do anything else, then study music. However,
Really?
if you have a single other option, don't study
Mm.
music. Don't study music.
Mm.
And I mean, I believe that certainly has a twofold meaning. It could be, oh, look, there aren't a lot of opportunities, and if we just have a lot of so-so musicians, and it's the system, the few opportunities that are there don't necessarily go to the people that um, really want it or deserve it or whatever. But then there's also that thing of, well, um, having a career in music requires a type of passion that you can't live without.
Oh, yeah.
So if you can, then don't do it,
Yeah.
which I found quite interesting. And I very much followed that approach. I decided in grade 12, I think it was February or March or whatever, I was like, okay, no, fine, stuff this. What did I want to do? I'm going to sign up for medical school. That's what I'm going to do. And I just decided because I needed to start applying, obviously. Um, and for about 2 weeks, I was just in a dreadful mood.
Really?
I woke up every day and I was just sad. It was horrible because I was like, no, no, and I'm not going to study music, but because you have to decide.
Yeah.
And about at the end of those 2 weeks, I was like, okay, well, I think I think my mind's been made up about this.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say medicine because it's been in a long while ago. I spoke to a conductor who actually closed his books while studying for his last medical exam and decided he cannot go ahead. He wants to be a conductor. It's been his lifelong dream, and he just didn't finish his medical studies. And I also just the other day spoke to a soprano who studied medicine, who actually specialized, but she was so drawn back to music that she decided to rather sing. So if it's in you, you cannot help it. It's that passion, and you have to do it.
Exactly that. It's
Yeah.
exactly that. And it's funny to this day. I still remember all the way through high school. I said, "Oh gosh, I'm probably not going to study music. Probably not going to study music." And my father always said, I think maybe already at the end of primary school, he said, I don't know. You're gonna. I think you're gonna study music.
Really?
No, he never had any doubts.
Really, but it's usually the other way around. Usually parents say, nope, you have to go and study something so that you have, the security and so on. And your dad, he's just like, no, I know what you're going to do.
Absolutely. I mean, he said, by all means, it's all your choice. You sign up for what you want to do. You study, you take your, but he said, you're going to study music. He just knew. And well, he wasn't wrong.
Yeah. Oh, but that's great. What a great support. And they must be very proud of you, your parents.
Oh, no, they absolutely are. No, it's wonderful. They're very happy.
Well, it's like it's a book I read, but I can't remember who the author was again. But he was saying that if you're in your flow, meaning if you are doing what you're supposed to do, you're in your flow, and then things happen for you, and the positive thing has happened for you. And like you said, now, things are coming your way and happening for you. So you are definitely in your flow then.
Well, that's certainly a nice way to look at it.
Yeah. But now, Ian, I have to ask you this because this really attracted me on Instagram. Your pink hair. I love it.
Thank you so
You
much.
are probably the first person, you are the first person that I spoke to with pink hair. Tell me.
Gosh, so it's been about, the first time I made my hair pink was in July or September 2020, in fact. Yeah. And I think it's not been pink for maybe a total of 3 weeks since then.
Oh, okay.
Yes. No, gosh, I think what happened, I think it was obviously 2020. It was hard lockdown still. We had pretty much, we were all stuck at home. I was, for the most part, just doing online, teaching piano online. Didn't have much of anything to do for the most part of the day. And it was only when I got the call that ballet classes would start up again in June, July of that year at Cape Town City Ballet. Oh, okay, gosh, that's exciting. I have a reason to go outside. I can go and work again.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, let's try something fresh, because I think before that I had white hair for a time, maybe about a year or so, and I thought, okay, no, we need to try something else now. And I don't know, the pink hair, it happened. It was lovely, and I thought, okay, no, this is gonna maybe be just a few months, and we'll see. But every time I started growing it out, and I was like, what's going on? It's like, it looks a little strange, and certainly when it gets close to, okay, the last bit of pink is gonna get chopped off, I was like, you just don't look like yourself. No, so now it's just part of me. It's not, now it's my natural hair color, pink hair.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And you know what? It's like this thing, we all did something in 2020 that's memorable, and this is what you did, and it's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I mean, gosh, and the amount of people who, it just seems to cheer them up when my hair's like freshly pink. And I was like, okay, well, gosh, that's lovely. That's lovely. It puts you in a good mood.
No, absolutely. No, it was really something that caught my eye when I first saw you. Yeah. So now, Ian, tell me, what is the wish now? You've got so much that you're doing, but what is the wish for you for the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. At the moment, it's wonderful. I have so many opportunities here. I'm constantly busy with opera projects, busy at Cape Town City Ballet with my classes there. But my primary goal is, at the moment, is to prepare myself to do a master's in Germany. In either, and this is the difficulty. For the most part, one has to choose, and it would be either in opera and opera coaching, or it would be in ballet and ballet rehearsal and things like that. And it's tricky because it is kind of a situation where, if one wants to develop one's skill set further, you have to specialize, and that involves picking, which is terribly tough because I love both
Yeah, I
so
can
so so
imagine.
dearly. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the medium term goal, at least for the next 5 years or so. I'm currently learning German, getting all of that ready, learning repertoire for the various auditions. Um, and yeah, I think I'll also go and meet teachers and see kind of what the programs look like and things like that. Because essentially, I love what I do and it's wonderful, but I've reached a certain plateau of what I can learn um, academically or at an
Okay.
institution.
Yeah.
I've reached a plateau of what I can learn here in Cape Town.
Mm.
Obviously, there are wonderful people here that I still continue to this day to learn from, but there is there's just a certain level of intensity and speed at which you obviously learn skills and repertoire when you are doing a master's degree in or
Of
any
course.
advanced degree in
Mm.
something, because then my day isn't divided between putting bread on the table and learning notes. It's very
Yeah.
much trying to
And
be the yeah.
but why Germany specifically?
Well, I actually there are quite a few of my teachers that studied in Germany, so
Okay.
I've connections there, and many of my friends have also gone and studied there.
Mm.
Um, so there is that level of familiarity with it, as it were.
Oh, okay. Mm.
Um, and I think also, at least very much for opera, this is the case. The Musikhochschule there and also the opera studios provide immense opportunities for development in those fields.
Mm. Well, we have in Vienna the one of the best universities in the world. So you can come
That
to
is
Vienna as well.
that is actually true. Well then,
So no, I live across the road from the music university. That's why I have to do a little,
of
just a
course,
little
of course, of
marketing.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's broad strokes. Okay, Germany, but because
Yeah.
also at the end of the day, as much as I would love to apply everywhere, one can only learn so many languages at a time.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
true.
and
Yeah.
I've kind of also I've certainly made up my mind. I'm not planning on wanting to go to England, for instance, where I mean, obviously the language isn't necessarily a problem. So that's kind of out of all the wonderful options, one has to start narrowing it down, as it
Exactly.
were.
Yeah. No, definitely. No, you're absolutely right. But you will come back to South Africa with all the experience and all the knowledge and do wonderful things there, continuing doing wonderful things like you're doing there now. So I love your spirit. I love your energy. It's amazing. I'm very happy that I could speak to you. And I wish you really all the best and that you get to the right university and that you stay in your flow. You will get at the right place.
Thank you so much. No, it was absolutely lovely talking to you.
Yeah. Ian, have a wonderful day in Cape Town and a wonderful time in the ballet studio as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Ian.
Okay, bye
Hope to
bye.
see you one day when you come to Vienna.
Definitely, definitely. I'll be
Yeah,
sure to let you know.
you let me know. Okay.
All right. Bye bye.
Okay, Ian. Bye.